Hey everyone, Matt Evans here, and we are kicking off our first inaugural Take Back Phoenix podcast. Here I have our first guest, Zach Lauer, candidate for Phoenix City Council, District 4. Thank you for coming, Zach.
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. So I guess just to start everything off, why don't you give us an introduction, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to running for Phoenix City Council?
Yeah, so I moved to Phoenix about 11 years ago from the Midwest. Grew up in Illinois, spent some time in St. Louis, Missouri, and then moved out here, mostly due to the weather, right? Most people leave the Midwest for the weather, and immediately fell in love with Phoenix. Bought my first house in Midtown in January of 2020, and since then have met and married my wife. We've been together, married 3 years, and then we had our first newborn son last January 17th, so he's almost a year old now, and just really love Phoenix. And then I got involved in politics. Last election cycle for the president, I was looking for an alternative candidate. I did not love the two options that we had, Kamala Harris, enough said, Donald Trump. I didn't feel like he had a lot of follow through with a lot of promises in his first term. He did do some good things, but I wasn't super satisfied, especially with the COVID response and Operation Warp Speed and some things there. So was looking for an alternative candidate. I read The Real Anthony Fauci by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and knew right then and there that I had my man. So started campaigning for RFK Jr. Was doing petitions to get him on the ballot out here in Arizona. And then I was doing table fundraising as well. Spent some time outside the Burton Barr Library trying to do some table fundraising. And then when he backed Trump, which happened to be on my my birthday, August 23rd, immediately kind of shifted gears into, all right, my guy is now backing Trump, so I guess I'm back to backing Trump. But the issues that I really cared about, the MAHA issues, the Making America Healthy Again, the medical freedom, allowing individuals to choose the best medical decisions for their family, was super, super important to me. So I needed to make sure that the side we were joining wasn't just to garner independent votes, but was actually they were going to take on the MAHA policies and make that a priority in that campaign as well. And so I started going to a lot of Republican events, setting up MAHA tables, talking with Republican voters about their thoughts on MAHA, if they were taking it seriously, if this is really something, and they were, right? And we were welcomed with open arms. People were really excited about RFK Jr. People were really excited about the things that he was talking about, trying to end the chronic disease epidemic. So yeah, immediately started then doing phone banking in all the swing states to urge independents to vote for Donald Trump so that RFK Jr. could get into HHS. And so that was kind of my first entrance into politics. And through that, I met a lot of great people that were also campaigning for RFK Jr. from all sides of the aisles, right? I was an independent, and there was Republicans, there was progressive Democrats, there was Bernie supporters, there was people, you name it,
Right? Yeah.
all variety of people coming together on a common issue. And so that for me was kind of like the classic what we want America to be, right? Is instead of being divisive and argumentative and looking at where we differ, all of us came and looked at where we were the same, and that became our focus. And a lot of people that I volunteered with liked me.
That always helps,
And
right?
they pushed me kind of that I need to get more involved, that I should run for office someday. And then shortly after the election, we had a mutual friend, Seek Smith, who connected us and said that you were looking for somebody to run for Phoenix City Council. And so we had a talk about our values and what we saw in Phoenix and what we were trying to do. And those values aligned. And I liked your idea of this slate where we could replace these insiders with a group of political outsiders, right, that could actually work together and solve the issues that are happening in Phoenix, right? I live in the city, District 4. I live in Midtown, right? Indian school runs through my district. I just had my son, as I said, he's 1 years old, and I want him to grow up and live in the city. Like me and my wife are city people. We like being in the city, but with the city comes some problems that have definitely gotten worse in the 5 years that I've lived in the current location. One being homelessness, right? And the homelessness epidemic is crazy. Indian school, right, all the way through my district. If you just drive from 16th Street to 59th Ave down in Indian school, you'll see it. You'll see it the whole way.
I won't tell everybody where you live, but you are in District 4, and so for the viewers, that's essentially from where 59th Avenue to 16th Street.
Yeah, it can go as low as McDowell, Van Buren in a small area.
So you got all the fun ones, right?
Glendale. So it's kind of choppy, but very horizontal district, and Indian school is all the way through it.
And anyone that drives down Indian School and just heads west can kind of see the shape of our city and how it's gotten worse over the years. I think even yourself and me were leaving the Capitol, a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and this was near where you live, and you said, "Hey, Matt, I want to drive you around this neighborhood real quick," when we were taking it out to get off the freeway. I think it was what 16th Ave in Indian School. We were
7th.
oh, it's just 7th Ave, so we weren't into that far west. And within 30 seconds, we literally take a right, and we see a group of drug addicts. I don't even call them homeless because that's not what they are. They were smoking fentanyl.
Yep.
And then immediately after that, fortunately for you, you had just taken a right. One of them stumbled right in front of traffic, and you almost hit them in your vehicle. Again, as I said, fortunately, you were just taking a right, so you weren't coming across Indian School, or else you probably would have hit that person, which is actually a big problem in the city of Phoenix with people jaywalking. They actually just passed an enforcement policy on that. But I digress. Anyways, so within 30 seconds, we take that right. We see individuals smoking fentanyl. We see a homeless or a drug addict walk into the middle of the street and almost get hit by your car. And then I take a look to my left, and what do we see? Again, what I'll say is a drug addict whips his thing out and right on Indian School Road begins to urinate where everyone can see him in plain sight. I think this was what, 2:33 in the afternoon. Yep. You have children coming and getting out of school. And this is the state of our city, and especially District 4, right? I live in North Phoenix, and we can see it spreading. But off of Indian School, it's really terrible.
Yeah. So I had bought a house to renovate and resell back in November of 23, right there, 6th Ave and Indian School. And then in December of 23, they broke up the zone downtown. And what we saw was that dispersion of the homeless just moved further north, right? And what used to be, when I bought the house, there weren't homeless people camped up all outside. But shortly after the zone disbanded, that's what happened. And now there's like a discount hotel, Budget Suites, right across the street. And yeah, there's just homeless encampments. Yeah, there's just homeless encampments like everywhere there. I couldn't sell the house. So now it's a rental house. But that I had 3 instances when that house was on the market of homeless people breaking in and squatting in the house. And all 3 times I went to the house. I had a neighbor across the street, a nice guy that would always call me when he would see something up. And so he would call me and say, "Hey, Zach, you got somebody in your house." And so I would head to the house. I would call the non-emergency line, talk to the lady that answers the phone there, let her know what's going on. She said she would dispatch an officer. All 3 times, police didn't show, right? And that's like, I don't really expect them to show. Like, I know the stats. I know how understaffed they are. I know how much crime is increased. And like, if they can't show up to kick somebody out of my house, it's on me. So, I have to go in and get the person out of my house. It's not a very comfortable situation. I try to do it with as much compassion as I can, but also like, get out of my house. This doesn't belong to you. So, yeah. So like, seeing all this stuff happen, I'm pretty disillusioned with politics in general. And we can talk about that in a little bit, about the massive amount of just fraud and waste and abuse that goes on in government. And So my aspirations on a state level or federal level to get involved in politics, I just don't feel like I could actually do anything that would make an impact.
A lot of corruption.
But I was hoping maybe at a local level, city level, there is an actual impact that can be made that can improve the lives of Phoenicians, right? And so, yeah, that's how I got involved, and that's why I'm running. I want Phoenix to be a safe, clean, uh, robust, beautiful place for my son to be raised in. I want the parks that we go to be clean and not filled with homeless people doing drugs. I want the schools that he attends to be good schools that are teaching children the right things, right? Like
An education, not an indoctrination, right?
100%. So um, I want Phoenix to be more affordable, right? Like, I mean, when I moved here 11 years ago from St. Louis, it was the affordability factor was the same.
Huge.
Like, I didn't see an increase in cost of living coming from St. Louis to Phoenix, which is like you would expect, right? A much bigger city,
Right.
you would at a nicer weather, nicer climate, like you would expect a cost of living increase, and I didn't see it. And now I feel it. I feel the affordability factor. I'm self-employed. I'm the sole provider for my family. My wife doesn't work, and my money doesn't go as far.
You're right. Phoenix used to be famous for being affordable, right? For being a great big city with warm weather where people could come. You could find single family homes. And it seems just like that in a matter of years, it's all gone away and we're not affordable at all. And we're actually having a affordable housing crisis right now. And we can see it manifesting into issues with homelessness and people moving out of the city now. I think I just saw an article, I don't know if it was the New Times that just posted about a week or two ago saying that people are actually migrating out of Arizona for the first time.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a loss of people because of the affordability issue. So it's a really important topic that we have to focus on. And first, thank you for stepping up for your city and running. There's a lot of problems in the city of Phoenix. You mentioned a couple with affordability and homelessness. And I guess what I would ask you and for our viewers is, if you are elected to the city council, what do you think that you can do to make it better? What can you do that the city is not currently doing right now?
The first thing I really think, and I think it's really been highlighted lately in the news with Nick Charlie and what he's doing up in Minnesota and
Let's
finding,
talk about
and this is at a state level, right? Finding a lot of waste, fraud, abuse of taxpaying dollars, right? Um, I think they've uncovered up to 9 billion as of today of fraud in Minnesota.
And so just for our audience, could you just give them a quick overview of what's going on right now in Minnesota with
Nick Shirley is an independent journalist, and he's up in Minnesota right now, uncovering fraud in the Somali community specifically when it comes to daycares and healthcare. And so basically what he's been doing is he finds where these companies are receiving funds from the state to run daycare facility or healthcare facilities. And he's showing up at those places and finding that he can't get prices. There's no kids at these daycares. They can't show any sort of proof that there are children there.
I saw one yesterday, sorry to interrupt you, but it just came to my mind. Nick Shirley went to a children daycare center.
Yeah.
And I think it was called like the Learning Center or something. Did you see that one?
Learning center, but it was
And they're
learning.
yeah, leering. They were missing the N from learning, so it didn't even have the title of the business spelled correctly. And then in another one, I saw Nick Shirley called the number of the day center on Google, and it went straight to Tim Walt's office. So
Yeah. So he went to a healthcare building that had about 20 different healthcare companies in it, was trying to get quotes on what it would cost to have a doctor's visit. And again, they wouldn't talk to him. They wouldn't give him quotes. They call the police on him. The police show up and specifically tell him that this is one of the addresses they've been informed they can prosecute people for trespassing. And so that there again, like,
so where's all this money going?
where's it going, right? And so I think that again, what they went to in that one day uncovered like $20 million in fraud in one day at these places. But overall, I saw that they'd seen 9 billion. And that's just like one aspect of one state, right? That's healthcare and daycare centers in one state. And so when you look at that, and then you think about the Medicaid fraud that we had here with access, and then you had the group home frauds that was going on here.
Governor's under
Right.
investigation right now with
100%. So you see, like, a logical mind says, okay, this is one small aspect of one state that we're seeing this amount of fraud. How rampant is that among other states? We've got 50 states, right? And across how many other industries is this fraud happening in these states? And then, of course, we know there's federal fraud, abuse, waste as well. And then if you logically, then you think, okay, well, then at the city level, there's probably some fraud, waste, and abuse going on, right? Like,
it wouldn't be a stretch.
logically thinking, if it's in all other levels of government, then it's probably at the city level as well. So that would be the first thing that I would want to do, is I would want to go in, and Nick Shirley's doing this as an independent journalist, having to pull records, and then once he uncovers it and exposes it, like, it's out of his hands at that point. He's not a lawmaker. He's not on the city council. He can't go in and make changes. But if we're on the city council and we do the work and we uncover this waste, fraud, and abuse, we can actually do something about it and end it, and make sure our tax-paying dollars are not being funneled illegally to people and organizations that has no business going to. And so, they just raised they voted to raise our sales tax in Phoenix because we had a revenue problem, and we've got to pay for fire stations, and we've got to pay for, like, we need more money. And it's like, well, what if we just appropriate the funds that we have better, right? Like,
what a concept,
right?
right?
I want to drive revenue too, but I want to do that without taxing the citizens, and definitely without taxing the citizens without their vote of approval on it. But I think there's probably plenty, as I've seen, and like, again, I don't think this is a huge leap for me to say, right, that like there is some level of waste, fraud, and abuse going on, and I want to find it, and I want to stop it, and I want to put that money to use that's actually going to serve Phoenicians, right? I think we've talked a little bit about the homelessness crisis. We've spent $400 million from 2018 to today between state, federal, and city funds on homelessness.
Has it gotten better or worse?
In that time frame, it has gotten 54% worse. So we are up to about 10,000 homeless people on the streets of Phoenix. So 400 million to have a 54% increase in homelessness. Something's not working, right? Where's that money going? How's it being appropriated? How's it being used? Obviously not effectively. And why isn't the oversight there to see this and stop what we're doing and come up with a different solution? You've got a 97% increase in unsheltered homelessness in that same time frame. So unsheltered homelessness has doubled while we're spending $400 million on homelessness.
Make it make sense, man.
It doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make any sort of sense. So these are the types of things that I want to fix. And I might not be a politician, and I might not have the connections or the access to funds that a lot of my opponents are going to have. But what I am is a problem solver, right? And that's what I've done my entire life, is solve problems. And so that's what I want to do. Like, I really don't care about my name. I don't care about being a city council member for prestige, or where it puts me in the community, or what that legacy looks like. Don't care about any of it. If I could have the job without campaigning, without having to do all of this, then that's what I would ideally want to do. Like, let me send you in my resume and let me do an interview and give me the job, because I just want to solve the problems. I just want to get in there and actually fix things where I don't see I don't see that in my opponents, right? I see people that are career politicians who are using city council as a stepping stone to their next political aspiration.
They're doing the photo ops,
Doing the photo op,
like me collecting the signatures, knocking on a single door, and
talking about planting trees and finishing sidewalks. And it's like, okay, we got bigger fish to fry, I think, before we start planting trees. Like,
let's focus on taking these drug addicts off our streets before we make a sidewalk a little bit bigger,
for them to
so you can ride your bicycle by and have that. There's
yeah. So, that's what I want to do.
that's very admirable of you, and you got my vote, I know. But I think that's exactly the type of candidates that we need in our city council, people that really care and are there to actually do the job and not just be this generic politician that's just going to go and further their career. You actually have a particular focus and priority of what you want to see different in your community. Specifically, you live right there off of Indian School. You are on the front grounds, and you've had enough. And yeah, I think it's really admirable. And the money is probably a really big deal, right? I think if we can uncover who's using the money and who's getting the money, and that would go a long way. Specifically, I'm sure you're aware, but the city of Phoenix in 2021 with federal grants opened the Office of Homelessness Solutions. It was their attempt to be proactive instead of taking a reactive approach to the problem in our city. And now those funds have run out. And they most recently, upon the tax increase, said that the Office of Homelessness Solutions is going to have roughly 26 million annual ongoing budget. So if you just do the numbers in the next 10 years, that's roughly $250, $300 million in addition to the $450 million we've already spent. So now just in the city alone, we're getting into $1 billion. And to your point, it's getting worse year after year. So I guess that's just a way to say that I agree with you. And at some point we have to really think about, is this a money problem or is this a management problem?
For sure.
So
yeah, I guess we could do the quick math on that. If we've got 10,000 homelessness and we're spending 26 million a year.
But I want to clear, is it 10,000 in Phoenix or is that in Maricopa County?
Phoenix.
Is it Phoenix?
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought there was only roughly like 4,000 in Phoenix, but maybe.
Yeah, no, that's Phoenix.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking about unsheltered. We'll set the record straight and do the fact check on that one. But
yeah, but if you do the price per homeless well, that's a crazy number.
And then you have organizations, segue, right? A little bit controversy. I was in the news a couple weeks ago because I made a comment about an NGO who receives funding from big corporations like Discover and Mercy Care, and they go on social media all the time and get likes and views, and their claim to fame is they cut hairs for homeless people, and they're making a difference, right? And so I kind of made a comment on the post saying, most of these homeless people belong in jail, right? Now, I obviously don't believe that. I was trying to incite a reaction, which I certainly did. But the underlying sentiment to that was that there is something to be said about involuntary treatment. And at some point, we do need to consider that as the factor, at least I believe, because with the most recent example, I'm sure you saw Tyler Chase, who was a former Nickelodeon star on the streets of Riverside, was found homeless and addicted to drugs. And in the last week or so, there's been a lot of press and attention that's gone to him. Some of his friends from the Nickelodeon show went and found him on the streets. They actually got him into a motel. They gave him t-shirts, haircuts, food. He ended up getting a 72-hour psychiatric hold. And then I just saw today that he's back out on the streets again. And there was a Reddit post saying that they saw him smoking meth. If you look at one of the interviews he did prior to going into the motel, he listed off, Zoloft, Adderall, several other medications that he's being prescribed right now, which in my opinion is contributing to the mental health issues that these individuals have. And there was a GoFundMe that started for this individual, and his mom even came out and said, listen, no, don't fund him. His problem is not that he needs more money. His problem is that he needs long-term treatment. And so segue back to what I was saying just 2 weeks ago, taking all this heat, I think you start to see these examples come to light where it's like, I want to have compassion for these individuals. Of course, we want to do what we can. If we could just ask him to come in and get long-term treatment, we would. But the reality is that they're not doing that. And in this case with Tyler Chase, I'm just going to come out and ask you bluntly, what do you think it would take for him to actually get rehabilitated? Do you think that we can just continue to kind of hope that he will one day decide to get help and that's the solution? Or do you think that at some point we do have to think that maybe there is a need for involuntary treatment?
Yeah, I think that involuntary treatment it's an option, right? It's an option to look at, and at the end of the day, we want these people to have their lives back, right? And so, w- is it more compassionate to give them a haircut and then just keep them on the streets doing drugs to where, that haircut's going to kind of wear off in a couple days? I know I feel really good after a brand new haircut, feeling fresh, but then like, a week later and the freshness of your haircut washes away, right? So, uh, getting these people to a point where they're able to live and contribute to the society that we all live in is would be the ultimate goal. And I have a soft spot for addicts. I always have. I have addicts in my family. I've had friends that are addicts. I joke with my wife that I think I was an addict in a previous life because I just have like a very soft spot for the struggle that addiction holds over people.
Yeah, you're campaigning one with one, in February 21st, I'll be 11 years sober from opiates. And so, yeah, again, when I talk about these compassionate solutions, I'm coming from a place of understanding what it's like to be lost. And back to the involuntary treatment, or should I say access to treatment might be a better term. But California actually passed a law called the California CARES Act, which allows for court-ordered treatment up to 12 months, and it can be extended for an additional 12 months. So you can have involuntary treatment for these individuals up to 2 years. The issue right now is it's kind of languaged around schizophrenia specifically, or you have to be a danger to yourself. So in the case of Tyler Chase in Riverside that we've all been seeing over the last week, they said that once that 72-hour hold was up, he couldn't, he wasn't eligible for court order treatment because he wasn't a danger to himself. And I was talking to you before our podcast started today. One of my father's friends right after Thanksgiving was found dead in a sleeping bag at a park in Scottsdale from a fentanyl overdose. So when these individuals are completely lost and using drugs that can literally end their life, how is that not a danger to themselves?
100%. Yeah, definitely is, right? Anybody who uses fentanyl is a danger to themselves. I don't know how you can do some mental gymnastics to say that they aren't, but they definitely are. And I think we need to find and fund the solutions that get people to the point of treatment. And we all know not every homeless person is addicted to drugs, and there's different circumstances for different people on how they end up on the streets. But uh, there are a portion of that population that are addicted to drugs, and we need solutions for those people just as much as we need solutions for the single mom whose rent increased, who just got evicted, right? Like there's different types of homeless, and we need solutions for all of them. And it certainly doesn't feel like we have solutions for.
Yeah, it seems like the elephant in the room is that, at least in my opinion, from the research that I've done, and there's many testimonials that you can see. This isn't a channel that I subscribe to, but Tales from the Streets, for instance, they talk to hundreds of people. It seems like the large population of those people that are on the streets are actually addicted to drugs, and there's not anybody in our city council that's kind of brave enough to come out and say, "Listen, it's a two-way street. As much as we want to give them help, and we want to take these people off the streets, at some point in time, the population of people living on the streets that are addicted to drugs is so significant that it starts to impact our actual public safety, right? As far as taking your children to the grocery store and seeing someone smoke drugs or leave a needle on the ground, or to your point where you can't go to a park and feel safe anymore. Kind of segueing into the public safety aspect of it, the city of Phoenix recently passed an ordinance in December banning harm reduction in public parks in the city of Phoenix, specifically around needle exchanges. And so I was just kind of curious to hear what your thoughts were on harm reduction, if you support banning that in parks, and if we're kind of taking our eye off the root cause of the issue by having these conversations around harm reduction. Um, and so, yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a moot thing, right? Like harm reduction. Okay, like that's not taking any sort of impact towards getting people that are in the parks doing drugs or homeless.
Almost if it's a Band-Aid, right?
Right.
You're
just not, you fix it. I'm a root cause guy. I'm a MAHA guy, right? And like, you can't just pop a pill and suppress symptoms, right? You need to get to the root cause and fix the problem so you don't have to keep.
That's how I feel. I don't want to have conversations about whether or not it's acceptable to have needle exchanges at a public park.
Right.
The fact that we're even at that point is, to me, a failure of our city, right? And our ability to address the issue. Now, they do allow naloxone to still be administered, which I support because, we want to save lives at the end of the day. We don't want people to die, obviously. But the fact that it's such a controversy and we're not focusing more on why are we even having this conversation in the first place? And it goes back again to politicians that don't seem comfortable enough to just say the truth out loud. And they just have to kind of say what they want to say. And it's all about compassion and it's all about leading with services. And the last question I guess I'll ask you with homelessness before we segue is, the city of Phoenix, led by our mayor right now, believes that the issue with homelessness is housing. Now, we've already had a discussion. I think it's kind of apparent where you sit on the fence, but do you think the homelessness crisis is attributed to housing?
I would say there's some of it, right? A portion of it, right? You got to look at multiple aspects when it comes to a homelessness issue. We have increased the amount of shelter that we have, but like, again, it's a Band-Aid. It's a temporary solution, right?
And then they have to choose to go into the shelter, right?
Choose to go in, they can only stay for so long, right? And as we've seen, even with the increase in shelter that we have, we're not keeping pace with the increase of homelessness, right? As evidenced by our 54% increase in homelessness, but a 97% increase in unsheltered. So again, like, it's not solving a problem. It's not getting these people permanently off the streets. It might be temporarily getting them into a shelter for a few hours a night, right? But
What do you think about, I'm going off base here, but what do you think about the recent change to emergency services, where if you call 911 now, you're presented with an option of what type of service you need, whether it's dealing with someone living on the streets or it's an actual emergency? You think it's a good move, a bad move, or is that just another indicator that we are not doing things correctly, the fact that we had to get to this point at all?
yeah, I mean, from what I know, like, the 911 times aren't super great as is. So kind of giving people another option, I don't think is probably the best solution. I don't see
And
it.
our city's understaffed by what, 600 police officers? That's another problem that we have to really figure out how we're going to address, because it's been a long-term problem. We've been understaffed for nearly 10 years or more, and every time the budget comes up again, it gets talked about. The most recent tax increase was attributed to, obviously increasing response times and getting more fire stations, but also a chunk of that went to our police departments. And we just hired a new city manager, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But one of his big initiatives is to make sure that the police department is going to be staffed. But how do you do that, right? Because they haven't been doing it successfully in the last decade. So what do you think, if you became the city council member, how would you change the practices of the city council so that we could meet those goals of getting the police department appropriately staffed?
Well, first we have to support the police department and support
Amen.
what they do, right? We have current city council members that actively are against
Self-proclaimed police abolitionists on our city council. Believe it or not, I don't think a lot of people know that. That's actually a fact. That is not something we are making up. On the city council right now, there are self-proclaimed police abolitionists.
Right. So, I look at, we have firefighter shortages in Phoenix. We have police officer shortages in Phoenix, right? I already talked about, I called the police 3 times. Nobody showed up, right? My neighbor, I was just talking to him yesterday. He literally was telling me this story that happened about a month ago. He's got some vintage motorcycles, and so he's often in his driveway working on those and taking them out, making sure they get a little spin in. And somebody like approached his house, his driveway, that he didn't know, whipped out his penis and peed on one of his motorcycles. So he calls the cops, and my neighbor can be a little like, he goes, I was looking for a fist fight. So he calls the cops and he's like, listen, you need to send somebody over here. This guy, I don't know what his deal is. He trespassed. He pissed on my property. I don't know if he's armed, but I'm armed and I'm going to shoot him. So you need to send somebody over here right now.
I don't blame him.
Guess who never showed? The cops. Never showed.
Did he shoot him?
He didn't shoot him.
All right.
He said 3 days later, the cops came knocking on his door. He wasn't home.
3 days later. You gotta be kidding me.
Right. And so again, it's like, I can't blame the police when they're 600 officers short. Like what are they supposed to do? Right. So we need to support our police. We need to make sure, I know we just hired a new police chief. Our current city council hired a new police chief. Hopefully they can fix culture. Hopefully they can, do something about the shortage and attract people here. But the other point I was getting at is we're in a competitive environment, right? Like the Valley is an interesting landscape, right? Because you've got Phoenix, you've got Scottsdale, you've got Tempe, you've got Gilbert, you've got Chandler, you've got Mesa, you've got Peoria, you've got Glendale, all in this area. And so if you want to become a police officer, right?
Where are you going?
Where are you going? Are you going to Phoenix where there's 600 officers short? You're going to be overworked. You're probably not going to be able to afford to live in Phoenix, the city that you patrol. You're probably living in Peoria, Glendale, somewhere else that's not Phoenix. Or you can go to Glendale, you can go to Sun City, you can go to Mesa, you can go to Gilbert, right? And be a police officer there. So we're in a highly competitive environment for police officers. And we need to make sure that they're properly paid and they're able to afford to live in the city that they work in. We need to make sure that they're properly supported by leadership in the city. And yeah, man, like if I wanted to become a police officer and the city council has police abolitionists on there, like why would I want to be a police officer in the city of Phoenix, right?
Good question.
The same thing with the fire department, right? Like you've got the fire department, we're 17 fire stations short in Phoenix. So again, I'm going to be overworked, underpaid, putting myself in danger on a regular basis. Or I can go out to Sun City. There's not as many calls, not as many fires, at least, maybe some less stressful calls. I've got a nice fire station out there,
Yeah,
I know people going.
You're selling me on it, man.
To trying to be a firefighter, and he's going to Sun City. And I said, you live in Phoenix. Why are you going to Sun City?
Really? Wow.
He's like, well, the pay's really good. The benefits are really good. The firehouse out there is sick. And it's just,
That's sad because, that literally impacts our lives.
100%.
Every second matters. And if we're losing talent to other cities because of the working conditions in our city that is making people make the decisions to work elsewhere, that's really disappointing. That's something that we really have to get a control over. And in the city of Phoenix, this, our EMS response times are well above the national standard. In my district, District 2, it's above 8 minutes, and the NFPA national average is 5 minutes?
Yeah.
So, when we're talking about literally seconds, you're suffering a stroke, a heart attack, a kid has been drowning. Some of these response times are just absolutely egregious, of 17 minutes where an individual actually lost their life over in District 6, I believe. And that's just one example. So yeah, I really appreciate what you just spoke about, because I think it's important for the people to understand, when it comes to public safety, we rely on our police, we rely on our fire, and here we are in a dire situation where we can't even get our departments properly staffed. So when it comes to the race for Phoenix City Council, what are some of the challenges that you face?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, I'm in a super, super crowded field, right? My current councilwoman, Lauer is termed up. So she will have served 3 terms for a total of 12 years. And apparently people have really been waiting for this seat to open up because everybody's got their hat in the ring. So
how many candidates are in the ring right now?
I think there's 8, including me,
Including you?
that I know of.
Just so far, more
so far, right? And we're not even into 2026 yet. So we'll see how many more come out of the woodworks. But it is a super crowded field. And with city council, what people might not know is you need 50% plus one of the vote to win. So in a crowded field of 8+, the chances of anybody getting 50% plus one, I think, is relatively low. And so what happens from there is it goes into a runoff. The top 2 candidates have a special runoff election that takes place a few months later to figure out who gets the seat, right? And so that's how I anticipate this going, is that hopefully I can be in that top 2 and get in the runoff, and then who can ever mobilize the most voters during that runoff is going to get the seat. But definitely don't see in that crowd of a field anybody getting 50% plus one.
Is there any front runner right now, or are they all kind of just?
I don't think so, right? Like I follow a lot of them on social media to try to keep up with them and see what they're doing. But I think we're too early for a front runner.
Has Laura Pastor endorsed a candidate in this?
No, I haven't seen her endorse anyone. I haven't seen Kate endorse anyone. So I'm sure those are coming at some point next year. I definitely won't be their endorsed candidate as the political outsider, which I hope speaks to people. Like, maybe don't go for the person that they endorse, because you're just going to get more of the same, which is stuff that's not working.
The same cycle, right?
The other big challenge that I specifically am going to have, because I'm a political outsider, and like just morally and ethically, I just don't believe in wasting a lot of money. Like I've met with political consultants, and baseline what I'm being told to run a successful city council campaign in Phoenix is $200,000. $200,000 to run a campaign for a city council seat, baseline. And I know we've looked at what people have raised in the past, right? And Kevin Robinson in District 6 in his previous run raised almost $1 million for his campaign. And again, as a political outsider, a lot of these people I'm going up against are very politically connected, and they're going to be getting large donations from people. I'm for sure fully anticipate myself being the least funded candidate.
You're the epitome of grassroots, though, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like, I don't want to raise $200,000. I don't want to take $200,000 from people and put it into a campaign.
Well, the question is, do you even need $200,000 to win a campaign, right? Or
I hope not, right? I'm betting on no, because like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to run the leanest campaign of all time is my goal. Like, I don't want to waste people's money on my campaign to get my name out there, to get my picture out there, to get people to know me. Like, I'm going to have to go about this a different way. I'm going to have to, right? Like, we're doing this podcast, right? I want people to see this and get to know me and get to know my positions. And if they resonate with them, then they remember my name and they vote for me. And if they don't, then they don't, right? Like, I'm not going to be putting up billboards. I'm not going to be running commercials. I'm not going to be, just spending and spending and spending, right? That's one of the things I'm against, right? Yeah, I'm against reckless, needless spending.
But you do need some level of spending. Just I don't think you need 200,000, but with your activism with RFK and the Maha movement, you do have a growing number of supporters behind you that are going to help knock on doors, which we all know doors win wars. And is that one of the outlets that you are going to try and use to overcome the financial differences, knocking on doors?
For sure. I'm going to have to run a really smart campaign without the money, and I'm definitely going to have to rely on volunteers. And I do have a good set of volunteers from the RFK Jr. campaign. And then we've been going around and speaking at PC meetings, so should have some good volunteers there that can help, get my flyers out there and get me in front of people, right? And it's a long campaign, right? Like, we've been campaigning this whole year.
Well, that's a good. when do people usually start their campaigns, and were you early in getting a start, or are you?
Yeah, I think we were early, right? And I think we caused a lot of other people to be early because we started campaigning at the beginning of this year, really.
Well, that means people are taking notice. So.
And so, yeah, I think people noticed, and I saw people campaigning typically earlier than they would. Typically, campaigns wouldn't really kick off, I don't think, until January when we can officially file.
And I feel like with the 2024 election now, it's important to note that this will be an off-cycle election, right? There's not going to be a president up on the ballot, and that drove a lot of voters. But that could be a good thing and a bad thing. But the silver lining that I saw, and then tell me if you agree, is that there seemed to be a higher turnout in 2024, especially of younger people and the people that didn't typically vote. And I know that city council elections are typically low voter turnout, but with having younger candidates and starting early, are you optimistic that we're going to see a higher turnout in 2026 than we typically would?
I think so. And I think, although it's an off-cycle presidential election year, there is the governor on the ballot,
Yes.
The attorney general's on the ballot, and I think there's a lot of people maybe not super happy with our current governor and attorney general. So I think that that's going to drive voters, and hopefully voters that would align with myself, that will hopefully kind of tip the scales there. But really, like, we just, as you said, doors win wars. I know you've started door knocking already, and you've had people tell you that, like, hey, dude, I'm not going to remember. I'm not going to remember you come.
Well, remember now, though.
Right. So yeah, that's going to be but I'm going to, again, like, I'm going to be strategic about it. And you'll see me knock on, if you're in District 4, you'll see me or somebody from my team knock on your door probably in August, September, October, right?
Yeah, that's one of the, I started maybe a little too early, although there's been some benefits. I've been invited to people's house and multiple times actually, and you get a network of connections that you build up, and word of mouth helps. But I have had a few that have just said, listen, man, I love what you're saying. You got my vote, but you just got to make sure you come back on my door a year from now, remember. So I initially started off in my district where I said, okay, what's the voter turnout from the last election, which was 55,000. And so I said, I'm going to knock on at least 55,000 doors.
Yeah.
And so that's why I started so early. But then what I kind of discovered, as what you're speaking to, is that not only do you have to knock on those 55,000 doors, or maybe in your case in District 4, 30,000, you have to do it within those 3 months right before the election. It doesn't really help if you start 2 or 3 years early, right? And so that's where, you can have this opportunity to do these podcasts and build up your momentum so that when you are ready to execute, we have a set of volunteers to go out and knock on a lot of doors. And so how excited are you to get to September and to get into those tough battle muds?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I've got door knocking experience. I started my first career out of college was Edward Jones, financial advisor, where
Really?
I had to go out during training and knock on, like, they preach still knocking on doors. So I've been knocking on doors for a long time.
And you're doing the phone banking too, so that's going to be another factor. So you're ready, huh?
Yeah, I've been in sales for 11 years too. So, talking to strangers ain't no thing for me. But yeah, I think it's, 2026, and I'm just not interested in being your typical
Fake politician.
politician, right? I just have zero interest in doing that. I think we talked about this recently, where it's just like, yeah, I want to do this, but, like, I have to do this authentic to me, and I'm a disruptor. Like, I've changed the way people do things. Like, me and my father helped develop virtual sales for our company. We used to, like, health insurance, we used to sell in person. You would drive 2 hours to somebody's house and hope that they don't no-show you, right? Yeah. To do an in-person insurance appointment. And now, 11 years later, I do 100% virtual sales. Everything's over the phone and the computer. So you have to, like, adapt, and we have to change things, and we have to disrupt things. And I see my opponents running their campaigns like your typical political campaign. And to me, I can see that it's not very authentic, that it's like this very cheesy,
Oh, you got your post out. Yeah, you asked for your donation. Yeah,
I'm just not going to do that. And I don't think that that actually makes as big of an impact as they think, because I look at how many likes and comments they get on that stuff too. Right? And it's not very many.
Well, their consultants are getting paid though.
But their consultants are getting paid, right? And their social media people are getting, right? And it's just like, all right, man, like what can I do to where people can hear me talk, they can hear my ideas, they can hear who I am as a person, and it's either going to resonate with them or it's not, right? And if it doesn't, then I'm not their candidate and they shouldn't vote for me. And I do LinkedIn outreach, right? So I talk to people on LinkedIn a lot. And yeah, I've had several people, message me back and just be like, yeah, I can't support you. You campaign for RFK Jr.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, all right, man, cool. Like,
I'm surprised to see all the hate on RFK. I mean, what's the wrong with making America healthy again?
they don't think he trusts science and his, we could, I don't know.
We'll
We'll save that for a different day. But, it's like I respond to those people the same, with compassion and just like, hey, man, that's cool. Like, I appreciate you responding to me and letting me know where you stand. Obviously, I'm not the candidate for you. There's 7, 8 other candidates. I hope you find the one whose issues resonate with you.
You're right. And that's what I like what you're pushing, because it's almost like when you get to local politics, it's just like this secret society of, the current representative or incumbent, they push their friend to be the next representative when their term is up. And so their agenda continues. You have really low voter turnout. A lot of people don't even know who their district representative is in the city council. But there's this feeling that if we just enlighten the public and we let them know what's going on and the opportunity in front of us, that it's ripe for the picking right now. And so what you're doing with the podcast and with knocking on doors and taking a traditional type of campaign, I think could end up being really effective, because it just seems like as long as you can break through in a particular medium and reach a large audience, your message is going to resonate with them. I think a lot of people are sick of career politicians. And so I think it's really special the type of campaign you're running. And when you are successful and elected as the District 4 representative, I think it's going to set a new precedent for how people run campaigns in local politics, because you're quite literally showing people that you can make it happen without having to sacrifice your morals or your character or bow down to big donors and big money. If you just, focus on your message and who you are as a person, karma will come back and we'll see where you're at in 2026. So I think I really like your mentality and how you're approaching this campaign. I think you're very authentic, and I think it will resonate with a lot of people. And that's just my kudos to you, just from hearing you speak today. I've spoken with you many times in the past, but I really, your words resonate with me. I can see it in your eyes. You're a family man. You want to raise your kids here, and you're just like me. We're just regular people that are sick and tired of fake, corrupt politicians that just say what you want to hear so they can get your votes. Nothing ever gets done. It's all about their campaign donors. And the only way that we will ever fix this problem, to your point, what you said earlier, we will never fix the inside until we bring people from the outside. And that's exactly who you are. You're an outsider.
Yep. Appreciate that.
So on a funner question, just to lighten the mood, I know you're kind of an athletic person. I think you play, softball in your...
Baseball. Oh, not softball. All right, not softball. I play real baseball.
Okay. I didn't know. Okay, my bad. So you play baseball. In addition to that, I know that you're a soccer fan, and the World Cup is coming up in 2026. I don't know all the locations in the United States. I know it's in, because I'm also one of those people that, my dad was into soccer, and so he raised me, and I grew up in the soccer life, and so I've kind of always felt like an outsider as an American watching soccer, right? I mean, we obviously don't have a great men's team, but I digress. Anyways, I think the cities that the 2026 World Cup are that I was looking at were Houston, Seattle, Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium. It might have been even in Dallas in Texas. I'm not sure if it's Dallas or was it Dallas. I think there's some on the East Coast in New Jersey. But one thing that stood out to me is Phoenix is the 5th largest city in the United States of America. Did we even try to get a World Cup game? I mean, how disappointed are you? Is this a lost opportunity?
This, To me, this is a massive lost opportunity. We saw how much money was brought to Phoenix with the Super Bowl, which was a nice big win for Phoenix. Even though the game was played in Glendale, we had a bunch of stuff downtown for the Super Bowl that brought a lot of people to Phoenix. Missing out on the World Cup as the 5th largest city in the United States is just, to me, that's a massive failure. Massive failure. The revenue, worldwide revenue that would have drawn for the hotels, the businesses, for everybody, it's just such, when we're looking at ways to increase revenue for Phoenix without taxing people, like, man, yeah, big disappointment to not get. Matt said I'm not really a big soccer fan. I'm one of those casuals that gets super
into it. I mean, I think that's fair for me too. Yeah.
Because like I'm a big sports fan and
It happens once every 4 years. Yeah.
fun. I remember last World Cup getting up early and watching games at one of the bars downtown, one of the soccer bars. It was a lot of fun.
Who you picking this time?
Oh, I'm always Team USA. Yeah, always Team USA.
Who you picking? Who do you think is gonna win?
Team USA.
You think Team? No. All right.
Super positive attitude.
Zach for Phoenix. That's what I'm talking about.
So yeah, it's just, opportunities like that don't come around very often. Like, when's the next time North America is getting the World Cup?
And well, with all honesty, I know we're joking about this a little bit partially, but Mesa's, building a professional soccer stadium.
Yeah.
Phoenix is not. I know we have Phoenix Rising,
Right.
but if you've driven by the 202, it's not the biggest stadium. It doesn't seem like it's really inept for growth and actually becoming a, first-class citizen, so to speak, as far as the sports world goes. And people, we try to want to embrace soccer and make it, something in America where we can start to have bigger sports teams, kind of like an NBA or NFL. So if you were on the city council, would you support potentially building an actual soccer stadium?
For sure. I think I think it was a travesty when the Coyotes left. I think Phoenix not figuring out how to keep them here was a big loss for Phoenix, for Arizona.
And I know our mayor was involved on a lot of those conversations, and the result was that, the Coyotes are no longer in Phoenix.
Yeah. So I think anytime you have opportunities like that, these are all revenue drivers, right? These are all things that are going to bring people to Phoenix, get people to spend money in Phoenix, stay in hotels in Phoenix, eat at Phoenix restaurants. These are good for Phoenix businesses. As a self-employed person who helps self-employed small business owners, 1099 contractors with health insurance, like, that is, to me, the backbone of America are small business owners and entrepreneurs. They are what makes America great. They are the people that are out here risking it all and providing jobs for other people. I mean, anything that we can do to help those people and support those people, we should be like high priority on that. So losing the Coyotes, not having the World Cup here, having Mesa get a big soccer stadium and not Phoenix, like, all those things are bad for Phoenix.
I agree. And, it's a shame. And I hope that we can put the right members in the city council and we can grow our city the smart way. Outside of sports, one thing that I also talk about is, we're the 5th largest city in the nation. We don't even have a real viable theme park. The only theme park we have is, for those of you who are in the Valley, Castles and Coasters off the I-17 in Dunlap, was it? And we know that where the old Metro Center mall was, that has recently been torn down and there's a new development going on. But I was just actually reading a letter today from the owner of Castles and Coasters that was written to the city council saying that the light rail extension over there, the lack of police enforcement, has really been a detriment to his business. And I think they've been in business for 40 to 50 years in the Valley. And it would just be a shame to see Castles and Coasters go. Now, that being said, it's a shame to see it in its current state.
Right.
Glendale, they have a hotel that's opening with a roller coaster. I've already 2 years ago put a reservation down for when it opens so my youngest daughter can have her birthday party there, because how cool is it to have a birthday party with a roller coaster? Again, we're the 5th largest city in the nation. We should work with the owner of Castles and Coasters to build a better environment around there and help them redevelop it and reimagine it so we can have a Six Flags or something like that. We can expand Castles and Coasters, and we can, to your point, a local business owner in the valley, we don't want them to leave. Let's make smart revenue. There's Enchanted Island in downtown Phoenix. And so, yeah, I agree with your sentiment. It's time that, we can collect taxes. We don't have to raise them, but let's figure out how we improve our city so that we can collect those tax revenues smartly, right?
Right.
The one thing that I have to talk to you today about, because you are a representative in District 4, and I know this is a controversial topic, so sorry to put you on the spot, but suicide lanes, or should I say now what they're called, reverse lanes? I don't know if you can even say suicide lanes, whatever. There's just to give you some context for the people that are listening. There's two major corridors for the reverse lanes. One is on 7th Street in Phoenix, and one is on 7th Avenue. I think one was built in 79 and the other in 82, and they roughly go from Northern to McDowell down 7th Street, and I think Dunlap on 7th Avenue. And so there's these two primary streets that have reverse lanes where essentially, what is it, from the morning time, you use the lane to travel south, and then in the evening, that lane switches to be a lane for traveling north. And the idea was, 30 or 40 years ago, do the math, 50 in my head, 72, 89, or 79, 82, it was to ease congestion.
Right.
But since then, there's been accidents, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of people don't like it. Business owners say it's not friendly to the businesses in the area. People are deterred from wanting to try and make it their way into our business because of the traffic problems. I was one of those people on the fence because I think back in May of this summer, actually, there was a local organization that got a citizen petition going, and they collected, I think, over 5,000 signatures to go to the city council and say, listen, we're fed up with these reverse lanes. We want you to end them now. And giving some context to the viewers, but I think in 2021, there was sort of this movement to explore ending the reverse lanes. They had a study that was conducted by a company through an unlicensed engineer, and the outcome of that was essentially that it would, congestion would increase by 40% roughly if we got rid of the reverse lanes. And so the outcome of this study was, no, we're keeping the reverse lanes. And again, this organization came back, said, we got the signatures. The people that live in our district, the people that are affected in this community, we don't want them. And the representative in your district, because it's important to note that I think the reverse lanes are only in District 4 and District 6.
Yeah.
The representative in District 4 on her Instagram actually has a post pinned right now saying, I support ending the reverse lanes, but I voted against it. Now you make that make sense. Now I'm going to put you on the spot. Zach Lauer, elected City Council District 4. Are we ending reverse lanes or are we keeping reverse lanes?
We're ending reverse lanes. There
you have it.
I live right off 7th Street. So I'm like 10th Street between Osborne and Indian School. So like if I'm leaving my neighborhood, I'm either turning on to Indian School, I'm turning on to 12th Street, or I'm turning on to 7th Street. And I hate driving that time of day because
of the reverse lanes.
I avoid it at all costs because I had to the other day. I was going to meet somebody over in Avondale in the morning. And so to get on the 10, I take 7th Street down to the 10 and get over to Avondale. So I had to take the suicide lanes, right? So I'm driving in it, right? Because I'm going southbound. It's between 6 and 9 a.m. I'm going southbound, so I'm driving in it. And first of all, I didn't actually really need to, it's not like traffic was so backed up that I definitely needed to be in this lane. I would say it's very seldomly do I actually see somebody taking advantage and driving in that lane. But I did that day, and twice I had somebody northbound move over into that lane to turn left, right? And so I'm coming on, and they pull out, boom, and I have to slam on my brakes, or if there's nobody in the lane next to me, like swerve over into that lane. That happened twice, from Osborne to McDowell.
Wow.
Not a very large distance. That happened twice. And that happens every single time that I drive that street. People are not utilizing the lane correctly. And when you talked about business owners saying it prohibits people from, yeah, man, like I legitimately won't go to certain businesses during that time of day, knowing that I can't be in that center turn lane to turn into their business.
That's a problem.
Right? So like I won't go to their business during that time of day. So yeah, I also rented an office downtown in 2022. Okay, so for all of 2022, I had an office space downtown that I was renting and working out of. That office building was 90% vacant, right? Like, and that's true of a lot of office buildings downtown. Like,
So you're alluding to the fact that maybe the reverse lane is,
maybe we don't have the traffic flow that we once had post-COVID now, right? Where more people work from home or on hybrid work schedules, or not renting offices at high expenses downtown anymore, right? So that's another thing where it's just kind of like, like I said, like I was driving during kind of a peak time, between 7:30 and 8 a.m. on a weekday when there's supposed to be high traffic, and like there's zero backup of traffic, zero backup.
So I kind of took a dig at Laura Pastor in the beginning for saying that she supports ending them, but she voted against it.
Right.
One of the reasons that I read that she did it is because the study back in 2021 that came out was based on data from 2018. And so she's essentially saying, well, we need new data. So I believe the idea is that they're going to take it back to the Transportation Subcommittee in December of 2026, and then they'll reevaluate it. But at some point in time, and I'll say this as someone who was always on the fence. I'm a data guy. I say, give me the data. I say, take it to the voters, let them decide. But I had my own experience, just 2 days ago, I'm driving north on 7th Street, and someone pauses right in front of us when they were supposed to go into the reverse lane to take a left, but they didn't feel comfortable, they didn't know, and so they tried to take a left in the actual lane itself, and we almost ran right behind them. And so it's kind of hard to deny your actual experiences, the reality. I mean, go down to 7th Street, 7th Avenue, and just sit there during these busy times. You can hear the horns, you can see the distractions. So as much of I'm a data guy, and as much as I am of take it to the people to vote, at some point in time, you have to realize that as a representative, at least in my opinion, that you are representing your community and you are representing those people that are affected. And it just seems like overwhelmingly in District 4, people are ready to end reverse lanes.
Well, let's say, here's the other side of it, right? Like we can waste time and we can spend money and we can do a study, or you can just end the reverse lanes. And if traffic becomes congested, and if it turns out that, dang, actually the reverse lanes, they were helping out a lot, we can always reinstitute reverse lanes.
Now you're talking crazy, man. Now you're just talking crazy.
Our permanent decisions, right? So instead of spending more taxpayer dollars on a study that may or may not be conclusive, right? We could do a test. We could do a test run and end them. We could do a test run. We could vote to end it for 3 months, right?
It's a great idea.
Yeah, there's lots of things.
It just makes you wonder too, right? What is their true intentions? I mean, they did a study before. Now they're doing a study again. Is it really because they really want to look at the data and they think there's an opportunity to understand what the best solution is? Or is it really because they didn't want to approve this petition from this organization, and this is their way of kind of deferring it and putting it off? So don't hate us too much. We're going to look into it. We're not, it's not a no, but it's not a yes. And it's like, what are your true intentions? Are you really trying to represent the people, or are you just trying to put them off with this decoy for another year?
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that I guess kind of goes along with suicide lanes is bike lanes.
Oh.
Right. So they put in nice wide bike lanes down.
Oh, super wide.
Down 3rd.
Yeah, Kate Gallego would love them.
Street,
yeah.
3rd Avenue. Really great bike lanes. I used them for a year. When I rented my office downtown, I have an electric scooter, and I like riding my electric scooter. It's kind of fun for me. So I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to take my electric scooter downtown today. Not because I'm some like climate change activist or anything like that, but I honestly just had fun. I'd put in my headphones, I would jam out to some music, and I'd just have a nice little scooter ride down the bike lane. So as somebody who's used the bike lanes, uh, guess how many other people I saw using the bike lanes?
0.
0. I was always the only person in these bike lanes. I never ran into anybody else using the bike lanes. And so I know one of my opponents is big bike lane guy, big proponent of the bike lanes, wants to expand bike lanes and have even more.
Like all the things, yep.
And have everybody ride their bikes.
No cars, everybody rides a bicycle.
In the middle of the desert in Phoenix when it's 115 degrees, he wants you riding your bike. People aren't using the current bike lanes. Why would we spend more money to make more bike lanes for 1% of the population when we've got 100% of the population dealing with actual problems, like the emergency response times, like affordability, like homelessness, right? Like, it's just so crazy to me what some of these candidates run on and push and how little of the population it actually serves.
Yeah, and to your point, what we were talking earlier, you follow the money. You know, who are funding these candidates, who's endorsing these candidates, and at the end of the day, I think specifically with making Phoenix a walkable city or turning, I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. Our current city council wants to transform Phoenix into Seattle. That is their goal. Phoenix was designed with the automobile, and they're trying to convert it to light rail and making bike lanes in favor of roads, and it's just kind of, to me, it's insanity, and there's way more things in our city that we should prioritize that you just all mentioned. But yeah, I had to ask you about reverse lanes being in District 4, especially since your representative allegedly supports any of them, but she wouldn't vote to do it. But if you actually want a representative that will vote to end them, then vote for Zach Lauer in District 4. Well, I think we had a great conversation today, Zach. You were a fantastic guest as our first guest on the Take Back Phoenix podcast, first of many. I really appreciate you being raw and honest with, what your intentions are to be on the city council, why you're running. I think it's admirable. You want to, go through the wasteful spending, audit the budget, and at the end of the day, you're just an outsider, a regular guy that's just sick of the politicians. And so it's just really been an awesome podcast to get this chance to know you better and who you are as a candidate and as a person. And I just want to give you an opportunity before we end today. What would you like to say to anybody out there watching this podcast today?
Yeah, I mean, if you're kind of fed up with what's going on, if you drive down the roads and you don't like what you see, you go to the grocery store, you don't like how much it's costing you, you go to find a place to rent, you don't like what you're getting for your money. If you don't like what's currently happening in Phoenix, then I would ask that you do something, and it's something so small. It's just vote for somebody who's not ingrained in Phoenix politics. And that in District 4 for City Council is me. And so if you want somebody who's an outsider, who's a business person, who's an entrepreneur, who knows how to look at books, who knows how to solve problems, you actually want things to change, then I'm your candidate and I ask for your vote. I'm not asking you for money. I'm not asking you to donate. I'm just asking that you go to the polls and you vote for me.
And if you do want to learn more about Zach, you can go to his website, which is
zachforphoenix.com, ZACHFOR Phoenix.com. All my socials are at Prozac5, PROZACH numeral 5, TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook, you name it. Not super active. Like, I don't have like specific political pages. They're all just my personal pages because, again, I have no interest in making a political page and just running politicians. So you'll see my life. I'm not a super active poster. You'll see pictures of my baby, of my dog, of me playing some baseball, and
not softball.
You'll start to see some political stuff here in 2026.